Welcome to A Tale of Two Scribes. I'm your host, Eric P. Bishop. This is a podcast where interesting people come and tell about the stories they've crafted. As for myself, I'm an author. I've created novels, short stories, novellas, and even poetry. If you'd like to find out more about what I've done, please go to my website, ericpbishop.com. Thanks, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to another episode of A Tale of Two Scribes, and tonight I am pleased to have John Stamp with me. Hello, John.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm
Writer,
happy to be
podcast
on,
host. What is going
doing
on?
my thing. I'm just trying, man, just grinding it out, right?
Grinding it out.
This is
And you
grinding it
definitely
out.
have been the epitome of that for several years now, just my interaction with you. And um that's the way you make it though. If you're gonna make
I,
it, it's not gonna be from just sitting on your couch like, someone will call, someone will give me a
yeah,
deal, someone will do this.
yeah, and I think you're one of the best motivators in our little community we got here with the encouragement. But yeah, it's like I think we've talked about it before. There's nobody that's gonna make sure you finish your next book.
Yeah.
Nobody but you. So
There's
that's just
nobody but you. Absolutely not. But yes, I appreciate the kind words. Honestly, though, I also part of it's speaking to myself. It's just my reminder to myself. It's like, dude, stop wasting time. I'll be 48 later this year, and I'm not in a bad spot with that. I'm comfortable with my age. I actually love this time of life. This is an amazing period of life. I'm really happy with it. But I also realize there's a high probability I'm past the halfway point, or at least close to, maybe if I can get close to 100, I'm at the halfway point. I'm pretty much there. And it's like, well, that sucks. How did that sneak up on me so quickly?
Yeah, and it's just every now and then that just pops out of the blue. It's like, oh man, I got less sunsets.
Yeah,
I'm way closer to sunset than I am to sunrise. But I
right.
don't know. I got it at I've still got it in my head that I'll make it healthy enough to have the technology to just make me like a robot at some point. I'll just go straight. I'm hoping to be like Terminator 2, like that liquid metal guy. If I can make it to that point, I'm cool. I'll work. I'll do some side jobs for Skynet to pay off the mortgage. I
Would
don't
be
know,
is
whatever.
it was it the T1000 or what was that one called? What
I
was the
think it
liquid
was a
metal?
T1000, right? It was Robert Patrick,
Robert
the
Patrick,
Robert
yes.
Patrick guy. Yeah,
Um,
I mean, that seems very efficient. If I could just turn into Mercury every now and then, and age would not be a problem.
that was actually so I was counting down the days until my son was old enough to watch R-rated movies, basically 17 thereabouts, whatever, 16, 17, whatever the age restriction is on those things. And that was, I think, not the first movie I think the first was, if I recall, The Rock. I showed him The Rock first. I was like,
I
I got
love
to
that.
give
That's in my top three favorite movies.
Oh,
I love that movie.
most certainly. So, but when I got to watch him show him Terminator 2, of course, he was kind of like, man, a couple of those scenes, Dad. I'm like, dude, that when that came out, I was in the theater. Actually, I was in the theater. I was down visiting family, so I was in the Atlanta area, and the movie started. Dun, 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 dun. Theater goes dark. Screen goes black. Something went wrong with the projector or whatever. I literally thought there was going to be a riot. People were cursing, screaming, get the blanket movie on. And they fixed the problem. They restarted the movie. And I walked out of that theater and I was just like, what did I just say? What did I just say?
Yeah, that one was a game changer. Well, we had a good run when we were in that age because we had Jurassic Park, we had Terminator 2. We had it just that was when that CGI just took, and we were
It,
very lucky to go
yes.
from like, Aliens was. I remember Aliens being one of those first movies. I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, how did they crash that spaceship?
How
That
did
was the
they do
baddest
that? Yeah.
thing I've ever seen. And
Yep.
then we go to Terminator 2, and I'm like, oh, we made it. That's not stop motion, right?
We made it. Um,
And I'll tell you, Terminator 2 was that was my Terminator because the first one, I don't know if I was just too young when it came out or something like that, but I never really bought Schwarzenegger or I didn't buy uh the maybe the girl, I don't know, for some reason the
hmm,
chemistry of the first Terminator did
yeah.
not catch with me. And it was when I saw the first one, it could have been Guns N' Roses. Maybe it was Guns N' Roses. That song, You Could Be
Just for
Mine.
you,
Oh,
baby.
there, look at that.
Just
Good
for
time.
you. I put the
Yeah,
shirt on for you.
you saw that
I was
coming.
like,
You saw
what
that
what
coming.
pop culture thing will we connect well with? And I was like, looked through my concert
This is-
shirts and I was like, this is gonna be a GNR night.
I am all about some GNR. I've actually got my boys are just coming about with their music library is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's heavily influenced by me, and sadly, it's not a whole lot of it pulls out of the '90s. It's all like that '90s like punk music, but they got good
My
taste.
my 17-year-old is a 80s child when it comes to music. So I had never seen Guns N' Roses. That when I was 17, 16, they came through. I think the Monsters of Rock tour with Metallica. I wanted to go see it. I didn't see it. And it was one of those like, as you get older, you look back at like, man, I wish I could have seen this. Well, that was it for me. So um, I don't know how many years ago now. Axl was touring with his version of GNR before they reunited. And I didn't want to go see it for whatever reason. I think they came to Greenville, so they came close to me. Then they were when he reunited with Slash and Duff, they were going and playing down in Atlanta, like maybe Halloween or I don't know. It was a couple years back, obviously. And I couldn't find anybody to go, and I was like, I don't want to drive down Atlanta by myself, go see a concert. Well, I didn't go, and I regretted it. So
Yep.
fast forward to last year, they came to Charlotte, and I heard the tickets were going to be there, and so I jumped on two tickets. I brought he was 16 at the time, my 16-year-old. Um, it was amazing. I mean, I've saw Slash twice last year. Slash still sounds like 80s Slash. And Axel doesn't, unfortunately. Still was a great concert though. Still was great. It just you can't screech like that for probably even I don't know how he did it
Yep.
for several years. You can't do it for several decades without having some change in your pitch and everything. But
Yeah, I'm surprised those guys, but I mean they're the only shows people want to go see now. Like it's all those
oh
old
yeah,
old hair bands if they can still walk. But yeah,
right.
that '90s group has got staying power. And I always put Guns N' Roses before grunge, and there aren't that many huge grunge bands that are still around, but those
Right.
pre-grunge hard rock bands are still touring. I don't get out to
Yeah.
see any of them, but I know they're out there.
I go
So,
see a bunch of them, and yeah, they're still out
yeah,
there, and they're doing pretty decent. I think the grunge ones, and I hate to say it this way, but just too many of them died off.
and they kind of burned
Um,
out.
yeah, burnt out or died off. I mean, I know like Grohl, of course, then formed Foo Fighters, and actually I was going to try to see him this year, and just didn't work out with going. I saw a couple weeks ago, I saw Bush. It was actually Candlebox opened for him. Jerry Cantrell was the second act, and then Bush closed it out. It and I got close. I got
That's
soloed.
an
I went by
all-star.
myself, so I was like 6 rows from the stage.
Ugh,
It was freaking awesome. And actually, it's the second. So Candlebox was my first concert. So that was like 1994, I think, 94, 95, somewhere around there. It was my first or big concert I went to. I went maybe some smaller ones, but and I didn't see him again for 28 years. So I saw him last summer. They were headlining a show, and I said it was their farewell kind of goodbye. And so I went to it, and then it just so happened this year, I guess they got pulled into this tour like almost reluctantly, according to the lead singer. And I saw earlier this year that Bush is playing. I was like, I want to see Bush, and then I saw
yep,
Candlebox's opening, and I'm like, okay. And
can't
I
beat
knew
that.
nobody that wanted
Can't
to
beat
go,
that.
so I just jumped on. My son wasn't going to be able to go with me. I was like, I'll go to a concert by myself. I could care less. I'm going to be
Oh yeah,
screaming.
I'm not against that. I'm not against that at all. But
No. So
now you made me think that I grew up in the middle of nowhere. So the first concert that even came close, I saw Cranberries. That was my first rock concert. Was
I,
Cranberries.
I
That
saw him
girl could sing. That girl could sing.
1996, I think I saw Cranberries. Yes.
Yep. I
Dolores.
think that was the year of her busted leg. Like she was still like all over the stage, but she had like her whole leg wrapped. Like she'd taken a
Yeah.
header off the stage ahead of time. But man, that she could sing. She
Like
was
she had
pretty
the big, I
amazing.
think it was white, big guitar. She had the big guitar she'd play. And oh man, yeah, great. Yeah, I don't know if it was the same summer. There was one summer I think I saw Cranberry. I think it was Cranberries, Alanis Morissette, Dave Matthews. There was like I was living in Connecticut at the time, and the Meadows was the outdoor amphitheater. And that summer they just had this stretch of good artists come through every couple of weeks, and I was college age, so I was like, screw that, I'm
Yep.
going. So I just went show after show after show, and uh, probably got secondhand high. I've never done drugs in my life, but I assumed I was secondhand high from Dave Matthews because it slightly reeked of marijuana for for several hours. But
Yeah, it was that, and I'm a huge Dave Matthews guy. That's like I've probably seen him more than anybody, and it was anytime he came close. I
yeah,
mean, like pre-kids. Now I don't get out much, but anytime he came close, and every time it was an indoor venue, I'd just be like, I know I'm getting a drug test when I go back to work because it was like no matter what, if you took more than like a couple weeks of leave, you guaranteed that you had an anonymous, like you just won the lottery and suddenly they're gonna give you a drug test, and I'd be at a Dave concert and everybody'd be massively wasted and be like, this is gonna suck. Like I don't want to have to explain this.
Can
And
you
it
bring your
always worked
concert
out
ticket
though.
and show them,
No,
look, I
yeah,
really didn't
right.
inhale.
It wasn't me, it was them.
Pull a Clinton, I did not
That's right.
inhale. It's like,
That,
okay, it was
that
just
that only works. That only works for presidents. Yeah,
that
I've
only,
seen people try it. Doesn't work. That doesn't stick.
you just got to get elected,
So
John. Come on, what are you waiting for?
I've got a plan. I
You got a
will
plan?
be.
Okay.
I'll be. Yep, I got a plan. I'll be president someday or dictator. Either one. I'm
Dictator.
good. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the United States. I'll take over a nice small country someplace as long as it's tropical. I could get into that.
Just remember
Yeah.
us little people when Tyrant Stamp is going to town. So
I'll be a benevolent dictator.
there we go.
See
There we
ya.
go. No, the concert
Yeah.
thing's a fun thing, and the other thing too is in this point in life, got the resources to go see. Not every show for sure. My son and I have got spoiled from our connection with Shinedown and stuff to be able to get really good, be on side stage and all that crazy stuff. So he's now in this mode of, well, we need to be really close, and I'll be like, dude, man, close tickets for some of these shows. I got away with it with Bush. It wasn't that bad, but I think I took him to see Sammy Hagar about a month before that. And they were doing the Van Halen, basically a Van Halen reunion show or greatest hits show. And we didn't have horrible seats. We were probably 30 rows back. It was an amphitheater. But man, those first 5 rows, you were looking at 700 to
Good luck.
$1,000 a ticket. And I'm just like, Sammy, I love you. I've never saw you, and I can't wait to see you and Michael play. And but yeah, no, not in
Yeah,
my level.
I can see you on the screen. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
no, it's fun
It's
experience.
funny. It's funny, with the ticket thing, like my 7 year old is obsessed with baseball and football, pretty much any sport. So, trying to give him the best experience, we'll go to a game and I'll get right down on the field. And for the first couple, he's like, oh, that's amazing. He loves it. He's right there watching first base because I'll set him right on the first base line. And then like 3 games in, he's like looking at the foul balls being hit and they're going all these places. And he just turns around. He's like, why aren't we sitting up there? And I was like, you want to sit up there? He's like, well, yeah. I'm like, why? You don't like being down on the field? He's like, well, if we're up there, we can catch a foul ball. I'm like, dude, like I could have been saving a boatload of money if all I knew
Ex-
that you just wanted the random chance of getting hit with a foul ball. That's no problem. Like easily done. Like, man, like, come on, kid.
That's so funny. It reminds me, I took my son a couple years back, and I actually went just this weekend. So I went to Greenville, South Carolina has just a really great minor league stadium, the Greenville
Is it
Drive,
the
which is
Swamp Rabbits? Oh, it's a drive. Yeah.
is the drive, yeah.
Swamp Rabbits is a hockey team, right?
Swamp Rapids is the hockey team. Yeah, no, there you
Yeah,
go.
I still remember that. I got my South Carolina still. Yeah.
Absolutely. But the Drive, they're a Red Sox affiliate, so they have a mini Fenway Park. They have the Green Monster, and everything. You
Oh,
can
that's
actually, they
awesome.
now have seats up there. So we've done the seats up there before, which are pretty fun way to watch. But several years back, we were at a game, and he actually got I think it was a foul ball, or however he got it. He got a ball, and literally that weekend or that next week, we were going down to Atlanta to see a Braves game. And we were out in center field, and now the player threw it in. It wasn't a hit, but player at the end just and in one of the innings throws the ball in, and my son like dives for it. Like guy spills his beer, and they're kind of going at it. Of course, my son comes up with it. He's 15 at the time or 16, whatever. And the guy was really cool about it. But so I kindly told him, I was like, look, you got a minor league and a major league ball game within like 2 weeks. That'll never happen again. Just so you know, just so you're prepared for the rest of your life. This isn't a normal occurrence for going to baseball games.
That's right. Yeah, you've ruined it. You're 15.
You've ruined it. Well, and
You
then
ruined it.
just some of the concert experiences that I've been able to have with him. So his first show was U2, the Joshua Tree tour, 30th
Oh
anniversary tour.
man.
He was 10. We've seen the Rolling Stones together. We saw Bon Jovi like 12 rows back, and Shinedown, we've had full access for their shows. So those are like incredible experiences. Garth Brooks, and just like I never got taken to concerts when I was a kid, and no knock at my parents in
Hmm.
any way, shape, or form. That just wasn't their thing. I've enjoyed them over the years. So my son's a musician himself, so getting to have that experience with him. But the cake topper at he was almost 17, was taking him to see U2 at the Sphere back in November. And again, one of those
I've got to go to that
experiences.
place. That's
It
crazy.
was
That place is nuts.
phenomenal place to see. I actually
Yeah.
looked recently for Eagles tickets just to say, I don't know, I've seen the Eagles already, but that might be a fun show in the fall just to get out to Vegas for a weekend. Oh yeah, I think the cheapest ticket I could find was 750, and it was not a
Yeah.
great seat. And there's not bad seats in that, but there is. In the back of section 100, it's like the 30th row or 25th row and back is obstructed, so you can't see the full experience of the inside dome. And it's just like, all
Yeah.
right, how are you going to pay that much money for obstructed view tickets? It's like, what do
Yeah.
people? Someone will pay them, but
And
not
how's
me.
the designer let that happen? Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So when it was built and when I was obviously U2 opened it, and so I was reading a lot of the reviews, and then I started seeing the reviews, and actually when I went to buy the tickets for U2, some of them did come up and say obstructed view, and that's where I was like, how do you have I think it was $3.2 billion venue? How would you
Yeah.
dare have a bad seat in that house? Why? I guess because
Yeah.
people will still buy the tickets, because
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's
And
a venue
it's,
you'd
well,
have to see something.
uh, it's funny what you mentioned about like I'm the same way. It's like when it comes to raising the kids up, I will pay and invest in an experience like
Yeah.
just to expose them to all these various things, but
Hmm.
to build memories like that, seeing artists that are not going to be there, like
Right.
everybody you're talking about, like they got a shelf life, right? And
Yes.
it's like, yeah, just making sure they see these geez, amazing artists before they're gone is something that I'll invest in that all day long when the
Yeah.
opportunity comes up. I just think it's amazing.
That was especially like the Bon Jovi one. He was real big. That was one of some of the music I played for him since he was little. So to go to that, and I think we went and saw the concert on a Friday. I think it was a Friday. So they played. I had tickets for him, real close tickets in Charlotte, North Carolina, because I'm kind of in between Charlotte and Greenville, South Carolina. And we just had an amazing experience. Well, then they were playing Greenville 2 days later, and I didn't have, I think it was or 3 days later, and I didn't have him. And I'm like, you know what? I jumped on Ticketmaster, and I wasn't as close. I was probably like 20 rows, 25 rows back, but it was floor tickets. But I was like, man, I might as well see him twice in 4 days, because I
Yeah.
had never seen him. Um, Phenomenal. Like he loved that concert. I loved that concert. I filmed some of it for sure. I played it back after. That's when I realized how many problems John was having with his voice, which he ended up having.
Right.
He ended up at the end of that tour having surgery, and he still never has performed since then. So they only did like I don't know 15 or 20 shows. They did a limited amount of shows, and they might never tour again. I saw the documentary on him a couple months ago where
Oh
if he
yeah.
can't perform at the level he wants. Now at the time it sounded great because the crowd singing, the backup vocals are singing, and he didn't sound horrible. It just wasn't John Bon Jovi that I listened to since the 80s. For 30 plus years, I've been listening to John Bon Jovi sing. So it was just a different experience. So glad I went. So amazing. It was a great concert. But I hope he gets to come back. And if he doesn't, though, then yes, we got to see him, before he retired, basically.
Yeah, that experience is still there, right?
Yeah.
And the little guy got to see it. That's the most important thing. It's
Yeah.
just my camera just
Your
went all
camera.
haywire. My camera's all jacked up tonight.
I have
Might
had
have to
mine do that
invest.
where it won't focus right. I've had to like put my
Yeah.
hand up and pull my hand away, and I don't know.
Yeah, I
Hopefully
think I might have to be investing in a new one before writer stuff comes back on.
Yeah, well, let's
This
talk.
is-
Well,
yeah.
let's talk about that. How's the podcast life, and what's going on with writer stuff? Because you're gonna have a co-host now, right?
Yeah, podcast life is fun. But the summer hit, man, and it was like it was just too much, like
Yeah,
one after the other after the other. So I think we shut it. I just kind of went on hiatus because I wasn't going to try and force things in and line guests
sure,
up only to have a baseball game or something just come and
right.
ruin it. So, but no, as I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, so I love doing the podcast, and I think the best thing about the podcast is the community we've got and all the
Hmm.
different, learning from all these different authors.
Yeah.
And but me and Jeff Circle from the dossier, we're talking about it one day, just throwing out ideas, and I'm like, hey man, I'm like, you want to just come join me? Like this would be fun. Like
Hmm.
we'll just go at it as a team. And
Yeah.
he's all in. The guy's great. When you're on a podcast, he brings a lot of energy. So it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's good times, just more collaboration. But we'll be doing
Yeah.
the same thing, opening it up to any genre. So anybody I find interesting or Jeff finds interesting, we'll find a spot at the podcast to
Hmm.
come hang out and just talk writer stuff. So I keep it simple. That's what I
Yeah.
do.
There's
I
nothing.
I simplify things.
There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a great way to stay involved in the community. That's I was talking, about my podcast with someone recently, and that's what I was saying. I was like, I haven't been to a conference in a couple of years. I hope to go back next year. That's the plan. It was the plan to go was this year, and it didn't work out. But it's a way of staying connected with people. And yeah, I've got the platform and the ability to just, who do I want to have on? Well, if they're willing to come on, then that's who I bring on. I don't have there's no boss saying who I got to have on or what I got to talk about or any of that stuff. And, I don't have to stick to certain genres. So I've had romance, I've had all kind of young adult. I mean, a bunch of different genres, and I've actually got feelers out to people that are totally not in our wheelhouse of writing. Those are a little bit harder to line up so far, and I'm not pushing it. I'm like, you know what? I'll throw feelers out there. If people want to come on, that's fine. If not, I probably could have guests for the next 2 years and not repeat because most of the
Yeah.
time you people want to come on a podcast. It's promotion. It's get to talk about your product or what you're interested in and your passion. So getting guests is not normally difficult, but definitely getting them outside. Like I have a couple big name ones that are tentative too, and I don't want to count my don't count your chickens for they hatch. So I'm like that would be really cool. Not even from a sense of viewership or any of that, just like
Yeah.
sense of people that I've grown up like seeing. It'll be a little if I actually come on, it'll be weird because then I'll probably be like just like I don't know what to say. What do I say to this person? I wrote a couple
Well, it was
books. I'm a nobody who live in the
right.
Carolinas.
Yeah, that was well that yeah, last year I had Mark Cameron came on
Hmm.
and writing for Clancy at the time, and his Arliss Cutler series is wicked. Like
Yeah,
so
it's
I mean
phenomenal.
having him on, but and then I had Wilson on also
Hmm.
from Andrews and Wilson,
Jeff
and
Wilson,
just
yeah.
yeah, like having those guys and just being like, what is it, how much does it freak you out just taking over for Tom Clancy, having the estate be like, we're gonna trust you with the franchise
Right.
for the next 3 books. It's like, are you kidding me? And
Yeah.
but yeah, when I've written a few books and I'm exactly like you say, I'm an absolute nobody, but these guys are coming on. And I'm like,
Hmm.
man, I don't even know. Like just the amount that you take on in taking over a franchise like that was, fascinating to just talk about. And
Yeah.
it's I'd love to have that problem at some point, but I want to write for Lucas. Once Disney's done destroying Star Wars, I've already got the plan for the
I
reboot. I've got it covered. I've got
think
I've
they're
got the
done,
whole
aren't
thing
they?
covered.
Have they not put the final nail? The last what was the last
Uh,
thing that aired a
the
couple months ago?
they managed to make a series about Jedi's like watching a PBS documentary. It was awful. Like
What
what
was
was it even called? What was that? It was
wasn't the one started with an A?
Ahsoka was all right,
Not
but there's
Ahsoka. No, it
that
wasn't. Ahsoka was
what was that
watchable.
called? It was so bad. I didn't even like I had to force myself to like finish it. Even though the characters they built, the bad guy was awesome. The bad guy was awesome. The rest of the
Yeah.
show was absolute garbage.
I think I
I
watched
just
the
couldn't.
first episode and that was it. Yeah, Disney Plus is the one.
Acolyte. Was it Acolyte?
That sounds right. Yes. I think
Oh
so. So
man.
you got it before me. I watched one episode. It was one of the things that I would do with my kids. I'd have my kids for, a 4 day stretch and we'd watch whatever series we'd watch that week's, Disney show. Whatever their new series was, especially Mandalorian, but that type of
Mhm.
stuff. And then, we watched Book of Boba Fett and I was trying to think. I don't think my daughter didn't watch Loki. My son and I watched the Loki ones. But yeah, just steadily for Star Wars stuff just seemed to be like, eh, not as good. And then all of a sudden, the last like year or two, Ahsoka was watchable. If they announced they were doing a second season, I don't know if
Yeah,
I'd
I don't.
watch it. I'm not sure.
There'd have to be some really good trailers for me to come
Yeah.
back for that one. And but the thing is again, what's her name that plays Ahsoka? She's fantastic. And she played that character fantastic, but Disney just has
Rosario
Rosario
Dawson.
Dawson. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but man, like that once that Acolyte one kicked off, I was like, you guys have done it. You've managed to make Star Wars unwatchable. It could
And
be a generation thing. I don't know, but
I don't
even
think
my
so
11-year-old's
though.
like, this is garbage.
Yeah. I think they've tried to put, and I'm not getting political or anything with it. I think they've just tried to bring the series somewhere that it was never designed to go. I think they're just trying to put spin on stuff, and it's just like, no, man. I mean, there's so much stuff out there about the Star Wars lore that just make those shows.
Yeah, it's easy.
There,
Oh,
there's
the
there's
books,
material out there. Yes.
the Rogue Squadron. At one point, they were saying they were going to make Rogue Squadron like a Top Gun of X-wings. It's like,
Hmm.
guys, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then I have no idea. That was probably too good of an idea. Some executive there sitting around and like, nah, that sounds awful. Let's talk about I don't know. I can't even explain it. Let's make Jedis look like librarians, and that way
Yes.
everybody's gonna love this.
Let's make this as non-offensive as possible, folks,
That's
so that we
right.
don't piss off 2% of the population. Let's
Who
piss off
doesn't even like Star
96%.
Wars? Yeah.
I don't know. You
Yeah.
want to think it's not that, but then and yeah, maybe it's our gray. Maybe we're getting older and we're just starting to be fuddy-duddies, but I don't think so, man. I still freaking go to
Yeah.
concerts. I still swear. I
I
still do stuff, come on.
Yeah, see, I like to tell myself that based on my Apple playlist that I'm still relatively hip, but and I'm ex incredibly immature, but I will have like once a week, I'll either be sitting in traffic or I'll see something on TV and I'll be like, and I can remember seeing my grandpa or my uncle doing the exact same thing. I'm like, shit, it's happened.
It happens to all of us. It
I'm
happens
that
to the
old
best
guy.
of us.
What's that commercial with it's like a Downy like softener for something, and there's that old guy being like, I don't like anything, but I like this. He's like sitting in his like auto recliner, like, oh shit, that's me.
I relate to this character.
Yeah, I was like, damn, that's who I measure up to. Sweet.
So what's going on in the writing world? What do you got working on? You got anything coming out soon?
I'll tell you, man, I took a hard turn, which I did not see coming.
Okay.
And
Nothing
this
wrong with
is the
hard
best
turns.
part. This is the best part of our gig is so I wrap up the new tie. So Ty Benhoff 2 comes
Hmm.
out this summer. So or this spring I put him out. And
Yeah, back in March.
after March
Yeah.
after many discussions with you, I got sick of dealing with a publisher
Hmm.
and I put it out myself. Love it. I love the control of the whole thing. People seem to really like it. And then I've got an arc. Like Ty's got an arc. I've got a 4 book plan for him. Like so
Okay.
he's halfway through.
There we go.
And but then again, of course, I'm sitting around one night and Amazon is the last great repository of good movies. So on Amazon, I find 48 Hours. Speaking of offensive, I find 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. And I don't know how it pops in my head, but the bad guys in 48 Hours are
Mm,
such great savages. They're perfect. They're just, the mad dog killers. And I'm like, how would those guys work out in space? Like, that'd be
oh,
awesome. What if I could do 48 hours in
in
space?
space.
So I start scratching it out and I'm like, this sounds fun. This sounds fun. And it's been on my bucket list. I've hit horror, I've hit crime, I've hit thriller, I've hit fantasy. And I'm like, I got to do sci-fi. I'm
I do
like, huh,
sci-fi.
got to do sci-fi. So I start scratching it out. I'm like, I love this idea. So it starts out as like 48 hours in space.
Okay.
An agent in the out on the deepest fringe of settled galaxy chasing down these mad dog killers. Awesome. So as I start going, as you do, I plot. So get my nice long outline done, throw it into Scrivener, and I start typing away, and it starts growing from this very focused, condensed crime novel in space, like you do.
Mhm.
But it grows, and now it's looking more like Game of Thrones in space with a giant like false flag thrown in. It's getting very very
Interesting.
like overarching political thriller. I'm like, that's not what I do. I do focused, quick hit action thrillers. And so hard turn. I have no idea how it's going to turn out or when it's going to turn out, but I'm in editing. I'm in editing right now, and
Okay.
I feel like this is going to be a good one because I'm enjoying the editing process.
So is the
It's
first draft's
weird.
done and you're just back editing
First
now
first
what you did?
draft's
Okay.
done. Yep. So I'm scraping away the excess and adding in all those details that I skipped.
Yep.
Doing the research. I've done some fantastic research on how phasers work in Star Trek, on how blasters work in Star Wars, on how faster than light speed technology works in Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, Star Wars. I'm like, holy crap. Like,
Well, you better get
it's
it
been a
right because
lot.
those nerds will email you like crazy if it's not correct,
Yep.
if it's not up to specs, man.
Yeah. So it's on one hand, it's like, oh, this is sci-fi. I'm writing along. I'm like, what does this do? I'm like, it can do whatever I want because it's the future. Nobody has any idea. So this is what it does. And
Hmm.
then I get to like needing to talk about how they get around the galaxy, and I'm like, oh, damn, I gotta do some
I've
research.
got to
So
do
I'm
some
comparing
research.
notes on all these things, being like, how am I gonna say that? I'm a liberal arts major. I don't know any of this stuff. So we'll see how it turns out.
That's too funny. The creative part of that, and it's so awesome though, because we're not, I think maybe if we had come into this, you know, well, we were too young at the time, but maybe if we had started writing in the early 90s or whatever, and we pushed out a novel and that hit in some form, you're almost pigeonholed at that point of like, okay, you wrote a political thriller, that's your career. You better write it. And,
Yep.
the way the big publishing normally works, and they of course do one-offs. There's authors that just do independent books and they're not series, of course, but it's very common to have a series. And if that's first book does well, give me a second book, give me a third book. And then, hey, that way that you put it together, keep doing that because it's making us money.
Yep.
So you kind of get pigeonholed into that's your career. And it's like, hey, I want to write, 48 hours in space. And they're like, go to hell, man. You go
Yeah, that's
write
not what we pay
another
you for.
thriller.
Yeah.
It's like not going to happen. We
Yep.
don't have to follow those rules anymore. And
Yeah,
that's the
do whatever we
beauty.
ever want.
Yeah, you can write whatever. And as long as, I mean, ultimately, yeah, you want to find an audience and you love to be able to sell your books, but we have the freedom that, man, if we can just write books for ourselves, honestly. So if it's a
Yeah.
story we want to tell, and I think we've done enough of it and we're getting enough experience with it now that we know how to put together good books. So yeah, go write what you want. Life's too
Yep.
short to write something for someone else or try to write to the market or try to fill in whatever gap you're looking at the moment. It's like, no, no, no. Go write whatever pops in your head that you feel in your heart that is a good story to tell. Go tell that story.
And that's kind of what I've kind of thought. I mean, the first time I wrote, I was like, I got done with grad school and I got all this time. And I'm like, I'm gonna write a book, and it ends up being horror. I'm like, sweet. And then
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I want to try this. And so I go back to, writing what you know. So I read a couple crime novels. I'm like, that's fun. And then I'm like, I need to do a fantasy because horses and swords sound fun. And then all the research that goes into that, I'm like, nope. I'm like, that was great, but nope.
Right.
So, and then it switches to being like, I want to try this genre. I want to try this genre. And when Ty came up, it was because I wanted this character that reminded me of all my favorite people I worked with over the last 20 years. Throw him
Hmm.
into a book, and then I had to I had him, and then I had to figure out a good adventure for him. And then yeah, and then it turned again. I'm like, I'm gonna try space. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's like I think first rule has to be right for you.
Hmm.
And then if people like it, great. If they don't like it, I'm still writing for me.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm also mature enough to be like, okay, if somebody wants to pick up this space opera that I'm writing, all right, yeah, and you make me a deal, that's what I'll do because
Hmm.
I've taken the time to write all those other genres, and
Right.
I enjoy it. So I do like the freedom that we have as independent authors for sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think because of doing those different genres, you're not you open up the opportunities for something to hit in a better opportunity in a way, because you've got different things out there. And actually, I mean, I've in the last 2 years, especially last year since I started the imprint, but even before that, I started researching it. I always have written more political thrillers or thriller type books. If you look at the publishing pie or the book buying pie, thrillers is not a big piece of the pie. It's not tiny,
yeah,
but
yeah,
man, go write smut or go write romance or fantasy is pretty big. I mean, a lot of the other genres that we hear about because Colleen Hoover and authors like that, they sell a
yep,
boatload of books.
yeah.
It's
It's
not that
those
thrillers don't
steamy
sell.
book clubs. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's so there's nothing wrong with dipping your feet. Like this year, I have written or finished or worked on or gone back and edited. I'm at political thriller, suspense, multiple horrors. One of the horrors is a comic book, so it's like
yeah.
stuff that's totally like out of my realm. But you know what? It's an opportunity that got presented to me, and I was like, you know what? I need to not just be stuck in the rut of writing the next thing that I think um will fill in the gap for like a series or whatever. No, go write
Yep.
something total. I've got plans for children's stuff. I don't know when I'll get to them, and I've not flushed them out enough to start writing them. But it's like, yeah, I don't. I plan on doing this the rest of my life. I don't want to just write, and I won't. I have people ask me like, "Well, when's the next Body Man book coming out?" So, yeah, probably like 2 years. I'm like, wait, what? And I was like, you had two
Yeah,
years already between Body Man and Breach of Trust. It's like, yeah, but I'm not ready to write it. I've got three other
yeah.
books between now and when I could write it, and I've got two others that I would like to even write on top of that. So it's like, maybe 2026.
Yeah,
I don't feel the
it's
pressure. I don't feel the rush. Unless someone starts throwing ungodly amount of money at me, which not going to happen because I've already put two books out under my imprint. So I don't think someone's going to come want to buy that third. But if they do, I'm available for hire. They're the
I'm available. Yep, I have my agent call you.
exactly.
But yeah, yeah, it's just I completely lost what else you said. Um it was something to do with just the genre and
Genres.
writing what we wanna write. And so it's just like, yeah, there is the more you do, the more you grow.
Yeah.
Like you said, going into horror, going into a freaking comic book. I was talking about this with Emma Adair about, she's getting in film school, and
Yeah.
the idea of trying to take my mind and make it work off the long form narrative and put it in a script version, I just it does not compute to me. And I've
Right.
read a couple. I was just reading Wind River the other day. The screenplay that they did. I can't, the guy that did Yellowstone, Taylor
Sheridan.
something. Taylor Sheridan.
Sheridan. Yeah.
Fantastic. But the way they write it, it's like notes. They write that screenplay in notes for me. And I'm like,
Yep.
what this page was would be like 10 pages for me. Like I
Right.
just can't get it out. I'm not that efficient with my
Yeah.
mind. So I don't know. But it's a growth. I mean, every time you try something new, it's a evolution, I hope, of the art form.
Yep. Yeah, Ama told me if when she gets to a point, if I want her to give a shot at screenplaying The Body Man, she would do that for me because I'm like I don't think I have the mental fortitude at this point to jump into screenplays, and I don't know that I'd be good at it. Maybe I would be. I don't know. I have multiple author friends that do screenplays, so the resources are there, and I know they can do it. But yeah, I don't know. She actually had sent me when she did her auditions. She asked me to critique, like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I can't do that. I mean, I like it. You did a good job, but what could I do better?" I'm like, "I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
the only
not
thing I ended up
qualified for this.
yeah, well, the thing I said to her, I was like, the issue I have with watching them is I know you as a person. I mean, I've gone to a concert with her and her family, so I've interacted with you. So to see you on a screen playing a part of my brain goes, "Well, that's your friend Ama. That's not that's not real." So it's a little bit hard to distinguish the person from the actor in that regard. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It would be cool though. It would be I would love to be able to do that. I just don't know if I can, because I've played with it. I've actually taken you go into Scrivener and you've got your outline kind of sitting there. And the way
Right.
I outline before I do a novel, my outline will be 40 pages long.
Hmm.
So at one point I'm like, oh, I can do this. I just take my outline and I adapt it. And I do that for about 3 pages. I'm like, I don't understand any of this. I don't even know what this looks like. So it's just like, I was like, that language just does not compute.
But maybe it will at some point, as you start to get wiser and slightly older, maybe
Slightly. Yeah.
you're you're open
Slightly.
to doing it. That's the thing. You got to again, like
Oh
we were saying
yeah.
before, you got to be open to new experiences, just for the growth part of it. I think it's so easy, and for any part of people's life, it's easy to be stagnant in life. Stagnant is typically the way most people go through life. It's the easy way to just handle things. Doesn't mean everything's going to go right, but hey, if you don't have to get pushed, if you don't have to come out of your comfort zone, if you can just live in your little bubble and you got your food available to you, you got this available, you got your television, it's like why would you need to go out and go to a writers conference and meet other writers? Why would you have to go out and write a different genre? Just stay in what you know. And it's like, yeah, but I don't think that's a healthy way to go through life. I think we've been given these brains and especially as writers, as these imaginations. I think we've been given them so we can expand upon them, so we can use them for something different. Sometimes maybe something that we're not even super interested in. Okay, well, try writing something you're not interested in. And maybe if you write it
Yep.
and it's a horrible, miserable experience or suck at it, okay, maybe don't do that again. But you probably learned a lesson, even if the only lesson you learned was, I suck at this. Okay, don't do that
Yep.
again.
Yep. But the amount of people who are just so happy in their little bubble, and the idea of pushing themselves or straining a little bit or finding struggle, just I don't know. To me, it's like you're not giving yourself the benefit of this life.
Yep.
If you're not pushing yourself, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're gonna regret it. Don't get too I guess are we old enough to say don't get to our age and have a regret,
No,
right?
no, we're
I
not
don't
that
think
old
we're,
yet.
I think we need another 30 years before we could say that. Just me
Social
speaking for
Security,
myself.
maybe. It won't be there
That's right.
when we want it, but in theory.
In theory, yeah.
In
When
theory,
I'm old
Social
enough to
Security.
draft. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, it's
Uh,
just it's I just people who start with no, I just feel bad for them sometimes. I don't
yeah.
know.
No, I completely agree. So yeah, you gotta be out there. Um, so I think your background's interesting. So I want to focus on that for a minute. So where did the master's in forensic science, how did that come about? And then what got you to that point? And then what did you do with that? I thought that was curious when I was reading
Uh,
your bio.
it's very it's a testament to my lack of maturity is
Ah, there we go.
I
Excellent.
always had
I know this.
I had the yeah, so I had the personal goal of getting a master's degree,
Okay.
but just wouldn't have any idea what it would be.
Yeah.
Um, And when I started out as a cop, the police department we worked at, we had roving crime scene units. So even
Okay.
on patrol, when I was on patrol, even I'd come into something, a B&E or a simple burglary or something like that, and I didn't even have dust. I didn't even have a camera, so I'd be on scene, and the crime scene guys would show up, and they'd be doing all these cool forensics techniques, and I'd be, following them around like a puppy, being like, "What are you doing now? What are you doing
Right.
now? That's so cool. What are you doing now?" And they'd be looking at me like, "Shut up, rookie," you know.
Who are
So
you?
yeah, they're like, "Oh my God, enough with you. Don't you have some report to write or something?" But then I moved on to the FBI. And when I got the FBI, I got on the evidence response team.
Okay.
And I was like, that's easy. All I had to say was I wanted to be on this team. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Hmm.
So I get my, 2 weeks of crime scene training and jumping on calls whenever something comes out.
Two
And
weeks and you're an expert, huh? Kidding.
that's what they say. That's
That's
what
what
they
they
say.
say.
Um, but yeah, so it was, I loved it. I mean, I nerded out on that so fast and so
Mhm.
hard. When I moved over to NCIS, the focus of investigation for the NCIS was much more personal crimes, personal violence related. So there was
Okay.
just a exponentially more crime scene work there.
Hmm.
So that I just fell in with that. So I got to the point I'm working on trying to figure out what I'm going to do for my master's degree, and I'm thinking history because that'd be interesting and could probably keep my attention.
Hmm.
But I was like, I'm just going to be reading history books and regurgitating what other people have done.
Right.
And then I'm talking to some girl one day, and she's like, "Hey, why don't you do a forensics master's?" I was like, "There's no way I'm smart enough for that. I'm a literally liberal arts major. Like
That's
statistics are as deep as I went in math." And she's like, "Oh, no,
uh,
no, you could probably do it." I'm like, "That sounds fun." So I looked one up and found that University of Florida had it, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I tried it, and I started passing. And I was like, "Oh, I'm passing. I'm making it through this. Anthropology, bones, blood. Like, cool." I get to environmental forensics, and the first like lesson, I get on to this lecture, and this instructor starts talking and I don't even understand the words that are coming out of her mouth. I'm like, this is where I hit my wall. I'm like,
that's your
yep.
wall.
I didn't even make it through the first lecture. I was like, drop.
Drop.
so I made it through the entire curriculum, except I had to find something else for environmental sciences because I had no idea what that lady was talking about. But no, I just nerded out when it came to the crime scene stuff. So that was the only thing I thought would keep the immature brain interested enough to finish the program. So that's
Hmm.
how I ended up doing that. But
Interesting.
as far as application goes, um, uh, I was a crime scene instructor for about 3 years,
Okay.
and then I think I had a momentary lapse of sanity and went into management, so that kind of put a stop to all that. So now I manage people,
Now you
which has
manage.
nothing to do with forensics.
It's like when a few friends that have gotten fairly far in the military, and it's like when you go from being an operator to all of a sudden you get the desk job. It's like you're not retired, but for all intents and purposes, is you're done. And then you
Yeah.
look back on the guys out in the field, and then you're just like, oh, they're still getting to
Like,
do what I
wait a
want.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
had
then you,
one friend that went through, and he ended up retiring at about 20 years, but didn't want to. But the army being the army, totally hosed him over, and he was so pissed that he just put in his retirement papers. But it was in his blood. I mean, like a lot of people would get deployed, and he was didn't have kids, didn't have a family. So a lot of guys getting deployed for 6 to 8 months. I mean, it is a hardship. I mean, it's part of the job, but it's a really difficult thing. He was the opposite. He was just like he'd come back to the States and be like, get me the hell out of here. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
I want to be back over
Yeah.
there. He liked
Yep.
that lifestyle. He liked the not so much the danger aspect, I don't think of it, but I think he just liked the fact that you're kind of living somewhere where there's no set of rules necessarily. I mean, there's hierarchy and there's instructions and stuff, but you're kind of making it your own, basically. You're not back,
Yeah.
like most people working a 9 to 5, where okay, punch your clock in. It's not, you don't do that anymore. It's 50 years ago you did, but get you start at this time, you get your lunch break, you get this break, you get federal holidays off. There's none of that crap. When he'd leave, he'd be like, "Hey, dude, see you in 8 months." I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, be safe. Drop me an email every now and then. Let me know you're not blown up or dead." And
Yeah.
um,
And
he
it's
does
like
it now as a
7 days a
contract.
week
So now
there.
he retired
Yeah.
and now he's a contractor. So now
Hey.
he'll like text me randomly because we'll plan on doing a trip. He goes, "Oh yeah, we can go to Vegas, man. I took a 3 month security contract. I'll be back in November or something." I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
Can't tell you where. Can't tell you where, but I'll be back.
Antarctica. Antarctica
Oh
is
God.
Antarctica. It's not really. That's
Nope.
that's the standard, and I know
Yeah.
where he goes because what he'll normally do is after he gets back or that last day he's there, he'll send me a picture of like one of my challenge coins in like a desert environment or whatever, and he'll say the name of the country too, typically. So I'll know
Nice.
where he was for the past 90 days or whatever. But yeah, it's can't tell me much of anything because of all the NDAs he signs, and it's
Yeah,
good
and
money wise.
it's
I'll,
oh
I'll
yeah,
say that.
money's great, but it's funny the way you talk about when he finds himself in that desk job. At some point, we all realize like I volunteered for this. You're just like,
Yes.
oh, now I am not out there running that call. I'm sitting here thinking about an HR problem. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. But yeah, that deployed lifestyle it's interesting over there because it's every no matter how big the location is, it's all, Americans or contracts or, an international coalition, but everybody's there as a little community and everybody's focused on the same thing and everybody's kind of there's that idea that everybody's got your back. It's
Hmm.
that's and it's kind of regimented. Like
Yeah.
I go to the chow hall, somebody cooks for me, I drop my laundry off, I do go to this, go to my job, go to the
Right.
gym. It's yeah, so there's something to be said for that. It's interesting. It's an
There is,
interesting
yeah.
lifestyle.
It's definitely a hard lifestyle. So I've had friends that have done it single and friends that have done it married, and the married ones are always it's like I couldn't, longest I've ever gone without seeing my kids is 10 days, I think, 11 days, just for custody or holiday schedule or something. And, that was hard. That was hard. And I still talk to them every day. Like I went to Europe a year and a half ago and, I was 5 hours ahead. So I would be calling at like 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning because, or whatever time it equated to get them before they went to bed. I'd stay up late just to talk to them, but I didn't see them for 10, 11 days, but I still talked to them every single one of those days. So I wasn't completely disconnected like some of these soldiers are. So
And being on the opposite side of the planet, it's like anything goes wrong, there is zero you can do.
yeah,
And it's
nothing
just
you can do.
it's a very
Right.
helpless feeling, even when things are going right. But yeah, I got all that stuff done and I deployed as a civilian, so it was nowhere near as
Hmm.
rigorous as active duty, far and away. I live just fine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the active duty that they live at a whole different level
Yeah.
than a civilian deployed to that environment. But I could not have done it if I had kids. Like my buddies on my team, they would do it with kids, and they were strong. But once I had kids, I was like, I don't know how you manage that. I would have freaked out.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I got all that done before the kids came because
Before
I
the kid. Yeah.
that channel just switched in my head as soon as that kid showed up. I was like, yeah, I'm done with all this.
Hmm.
I'm playing dad now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the
Yeah,
most important job you're going to have. And I mean, I'm
yeah,
at that stage now with my son because my son's close to 18. He's senior year now. He's actually doing a dual enrollment program with the university. So he's got classes with that. And I see with him that I'm close to that point where I don't know that he's going to move out as soon as he turns 18 or as soon as he finishes high school, but he could. And I can't be
yeah.
like, hey, dude, don't forget, you're supposed to be at my house 4 days a week. He can be like, hey, dude, I'm not coming to your house
Yeah.
4 days a week. There's nothing I
Yeah,
can't spank
exactly.
him. I can't do anything to him. He kicked my
Oh
butt
man.
anyways. He's a black belt. So, there's nothing I can do. He's an adult. And that it started to seep into my brain. I kind of knew it last year. I took the kids and my mom to Yosemite and kind of in my thought process, and I wasn't morbid or not depressed about it, but I was like, this is probably one of the last chances to do kind of a like true family vacay where They don't have a choice. You're coming. It's gonna be fun. I'll make it
Right.
fun for you guys, but you're coming on this
Yeah.
trip, and it's like I knew this summer there was a lot going on, so I figured we wouldn't probably. And we ended up going away for a week, so we did DC and Connecticut, but just not anywhere exotic basically. But yeah, now it's like maybe we'll do a trip next year, but he could be moved out, or he could be off in college, or he could take a job and go somewhere else, or have a full-time job and then not be able to get time off, and it's just like that happened kind of quick.
That's
Kind of quick.
scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's scary.
It
Yeah,
sucks. I
man.
won't lie. I don't do not like it. Do not like it. Even the
Yeah,
lack
that would
of
keep me up.
even them getting older and they start communicating with you less. Like there's nights now for years, even if I didn't see the kids, I would talk to them every night. I think in the last week, let's see, the kids left. When were they last with me? Friday morning they left or whatever. No, 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 I didn't have this. It was more than that. But I've had like 3 days and like 6 days that I haven't talked to him. He was at a birthday party one night and got home like way late. Another night, I was somewhere and I just wasn't able to call. Or by the time I called, he was already asleep or whatever because he has to get up early for work now, a couple days a week. So I had like multiple days that I didn't talk to him at all. And I thought about the next day and I was like, man, I didn't talk to Bruce today. It's like that sucks. Even just and I've told him that as he's getting older. I was like, dude, just call me for a minute a day. Just be like, hey,
Yeah.
dude. You don't even have to say love you. Be like, hey man, how's it going? I'll be like, oh, doing good. How about you? I'm doing good. I gotta go to bed. Be like, okay, cool. Glad I got to hear your voice today. It's like I'll settle for that. Just I'm not ready yet for like, I don't hear from you for a week and then I
Yeah,
think
that
about like
transition.
my own life, like my dad, and I love my dad, but I go a long stretch a lot of times without talking to my dad. And I should call my dad more. And then the other obstinate older part of me would be like, well, he'd call me too. I mean, we could play that game
Yep,
all
that's
day
right.
long. But
Yeah, it's like every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks over the grill on Sunday.
but yeah, but in reality, I don't talk to him that often. And I've kind of had that pop in my head recently, like, that could be you in a few years where you're not talking to your son very often. And I'm like, ooh, I don't like this.
Yeah,
This is
will
not
be.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, you just think back to like the 20s when you're just grinding every day, just trying to figure out how to make rent and trying to figure out how to be an adult and
Yeah.
live and moving I swear there was a time I moved like every 8 months. Like, it's like but keeping in touch back home is, yeah, that's a hard transition. It's,
Yeah, it
yep.
is.
Oh, yeah.
But it's part of life, and that's the other thing in life that I think we have to embrace. You reluctantly embrace it, I guess, but you have to look at it as the seasons that happen. And then what's the like he'll be 18 in January, and I basically told him I'd try to get him a passport and just family custody dynamics. We'll just leave it at that term. I wasn't able to.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, well, at 18, I can get him. I can do anything I want because he's an adult. So I was like, dude, part of your 18th birthday present is I'm going down or whatever, where post office, wherever we have to go do it. You're getting a passport, and I'll take you somewhere. Really? It's like,
Yep.
yeah. Where do you want to go? As long as it's not something stupid. We're not going to the International Space Station. We're not taking Starlink up there because goodness knows, we'd probably be stuck for 8 months.
As long as it's not Boeing, we're
Oh,
probably
it's not
good.
Boeing, right? We'll take Musk. We'll call Elon,
Yeah, we'll go
Elon will
we'll
take care of
SpaceX up
us.
there.
But
Well,
so yeah, I'll take you somewhere fun. His 18th birthday. This is like but I'd like to get you out of the country. And part of that is I want him because I was 19 when I first went to Europe, and I saw like 6 countries the summer of my between my freshman and sophomore year of college. And it was one of those life-changing experiences for me. And it's like, I don't know that I'll give him the same life-changing experience, but I want to give him some experience that he sees something that's not the United States. He sees another
yep.
culture. And I'm hoping that will maybe start a little fire of him saying, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see something else. Because there's
Yeah.
so much out there, and I think we take it for granted a lot here of what we have versus what other people have, and I mean the freedoms we have, which I think those are dissipating and have been dissipating in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Hopefully that won't start quicker in the coming years. But we do still have it really good compared to a lot of people in the world.
Yep. And it's so important to set that tone because I mean, we were
Yeah.
just talking about how easy it is to live in a bubble. And I know people who, just haven't left their county line, in
Yeah.
like 10 years just because life is easy and busy and your world just shrinks. But
Yep.
yeah, it's like, wow, I think it's Mark Twain that said, ignorant people need to read more and travel more, or was it if you find me a racist, I find somebody who hasn't read or traveled more. It's some I'm butchering the quote, but it was
So, right.
something Mark Twain said to that effect.
Yeah.
The ignorant haven't traveled or something like that. But yeah, and just to see, I mean, even we don't have to go far. We just go directly across the pond and look at these different places and realize that we have it really good here. Like
Yeah.
it is very hard for me to listen to people bag on America who have never left the state they were born in. And
Hmm.
it's usually the people bagging on America are exactly those people. They are not well-traveled people.
Right.
They're the ones who sunk into their bubble, and they like an angry bubble. Like as soon as they were able to get on Twitter, and that's it. It's like, oh
The
God, you
social
guys
media,
need to get out
the end
more.
of all civilization, social media, basically.
Kind of looking like it, man.
It's definitely.
Yeah.
So I have multiple people as neighbors that have never been on a plane before. When I first moved here several years ago, I was talking to my kids about it. And my kids were kind of like, "Well, Dad, not everyone's like you and loves to travel and just jumps on planes on the weekends, blah blah." And I said, "No, I get that." I said, "And I get from a financial standpoint, I'm middle class. I'm not anything crazy, but I try to be good with my money. And when I can, I try to travel. And if I can travel international, I try to do that. But to me, the struggle is when I meet people that haven't left a two-state radius or one state or haven't been on a plane. I'm like, I can't fathom that. I can't fathom not
Yeah.
having, and I know it's how I'm wired. I can't fathom not having the desire to say, what's South America look like? What's
Yeah.
Dubai look like? What's the great? I'd love to. I don't know when I'll get to my bucket list of some of them, but one of them is I want to go to the Great Wall of China. I literally probably could fly in, go to the Great Wall, walk for about a mile or two, and be like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Box
Maybe
checked.
Forbidden City, but get me out of here.
Yeah.
I'm cool." But
Yep.
it's one of the things. If you can see that from space, I'd like to walk on it. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just I don't maybe it's just because we're writers, so we've had that creative streak, but I grew up being like, what's on the other side of that hill? And
Yeah,
I'm gonna go figure it out. And then it became, what's Pennsylvania look like? I would really like to see what Nevada looks like. I'll have to take a road trip and
right.
just throw a dart at the map, and I have to see what's on the other end of that dart. And I don't know. I don't think I would have survived if I didn't reach out and just at least try to do stuff.
Try
I
to
don't
do
know.
stuff. I was talking to us off the air and saying that I'm in a room that's got other stuff in here, not just this lovely, beautiful backdrop. Well, one of the things in there is a full size map, probably like 6 by 4. I think it's 6 by 4. It's a big map. I got it for my birthday years ago, and I got it for the express purpose of I wanted to mark all the places I've been. If I would turn the camera around, but you wouldn't be able to see it from this far away. There's a lot of dots on that map. I've been to 45 states. I've been to a dozen more state capitals. I've done a lot of the national parks. So I've been very well traveled. And that's not bragging. People will come and they'll look at it and they're like, look at all those dots and explain to me like what the colors mean because there's a couple of different colors that I use. The funny thing is, I look at it and I see all the spaces that don't have dots because I'm like, there's
Right.
still, and this is just the United States, there's so much. I'll never see all the things I want to see in this lifetime. And I'm grateful for everything I've seen. I was out and hiking this weekend up in the Blue Ridge Parkway or Blue Ridge Mountains at a spot that I'd driven by 100 times and never hiked. And so a buddy and he's lived there his whole life, had never hiked it. So we hiked it. We get to the top, like 2,000 foot climb, and you didn't see civilization at all. Nothing. No houses, no cell towers, and you saw for miles and miles
That's
and miles a whole stretch of Blue Ridge Mountains, and there
that's
probably
hard
was
to do
stuff
on the
there.
East
You just
Coast.
couldn't see it. Um,
Yeah.
but but I look at that stuff and I'm like, man, it made me so happy to see it. But then I climb down that mountain. Guess what? When's the next one I get to climb? It's not like,
Yep.
and I kind of entail that with writing. When I talk about people with writing, like, finishing the books that are behind me and getting to write those books, their joy in that is hard to describe. Didn't satisfy me for too long. Guess what? I want to get another book out and I want to get the next one out
Right
and I
back
want to
to
get
it.
one after it.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a map the exact same thing in my kitchen, and it's got every place I've been and places I've been, and then places where Erica and I've been together, and then places where the family's been
Yeah.
together. And it's same thing, just to set that tone for the boys that, this world is a gigantic playground.
Yeah.
Go use it. Do not, do not like we live in a really nice place. Nice small community, very Great place to raise kids. Very
All the
peaceful.
PGA
Very,
Tour
very.
stars are down there.
That's exactly right. But I tell them probably at least twice a year. It's like, whatever, however you end high school, whether you're going to college or whether you're moving on to the military, whether you're doing anything, you are not
Mhm.
doing it here. You are leaving to
You are
go see what
leaving.
else is out there. You can come back,
Yeah.
but you can't spend the next 50 years in this place. It's not the same. You have to go
You have
see
a basement or
what's
crawl
out there.
space?
Hey, I've got a ranch that I don't have anything.
Yep.
My house is built on sand, man. I'm
Okay,
basically
you're
on the
on sand.
beach.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yep.
your
But no,
rooms
just
get
there's
padlocked when you leave, kids. Sorry.
pretty
Sorry.
much as boys know, they got to go see the world before they come back here.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a rule. Yeah.
Yep. I had told my parents, so when I graduated high school, I told my parents, and I sincerely meant, I love you guys. I'm not coming back. Not coming back. I'll come back to visit, yes, but and I did stay. My parents had me. They were willing to help with college, but they were in a position where they were both working full time, and they said, "Hey, would you take a year off, babysit your brother and sister, who are my sister's 12 years younger, my brother's 15. So, at the time they were little kids. My sister was in kindergarten, my brother was in nursery school. So I took a year off and just watched them full time. I worked in a warehouse in the evenings and weekends, which was great. I was able to save money. That's how I went to that trip to Europe. I saved up for a year, and instead of buying a car, I went to Europe, which was much better investment than a
That's
car.
much better. Yeah.
It was, but once I left for college, I kept to my word. Came back for holidays or visits every so often, but that was it. And that wasn't a knock at my parents. It wasn't a knock at growing up in Connecticut. I just had known so many people growing up in my life that had never left that community. And I said, I don't believe in regrets, but I know they happen. I will regret if I get to a later stage in my life and go, I lived in the same town my entire freaking life. Like, no, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in an absolutely gorgeous place. The Finger Lakes of New York is
Yeah.
I would put the
I was up
beauty
in
of
your
that
neck of the
part of
woods
the
for a wedding
country.
last October. I think we interacted a little bit when I was up there. Yeah.
Yeah, but between the lakes, I actually think you stayed at a place where I was a bellhop in high school, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. But no, and for me it was there wasn't any opportunity there. And
Right.
just that natural beauty would not sustain the I was looking to go I knew I had to work for 20 or 30 years. I wanted to have fun when I do it. So I want
Hmm.
to find a job that I thought would be the most entertaining as possible. And I'm pretty sure I got about as close as you can get. I don't think there is any more entertaining life than being in law enforcement.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, there wasn't any opportunity to do that where I grew up. So that's how I ended up rocketing out of that town. But it's gorgeous and I love going back. It's just
Mhm.
I couldn't stay.
Yeah, no, I understand that mindset. Well, let's end with this. This is how I end or try to end most of my interviews, since we're talking about kind of where we grew up in our life and all that. So, as a writer, I think you'd probably agree that life is like a book. We got a first page, we got a last page. Fortunately, none of us know how many pages are going to be in between those. But as a scribe, as a writer, you get to write that last page. What does John Stamp want that last page to say?
Oh, if I had it up to me, it would be he was sitting on the crater on the lip of a crater in the moon watching the sun wink out. That's how far I want to go.
I like it.
I have no interest in ending any of this. I would if it was up to me, I'd figure out what happens when the universe freezes over.
I think it was Musk. I want to say it was Elon recently that, don't always believe everything Elon says for sure, but I want to say it was him that said that there are people alive now. He didn't give an age range, but people alive now that will live to be 120 to 150 years old. The way he said in the next 10 years, the technology that will come out and that will be released of what they've been developing will get it to a spot where human lifespan is going to expand rapidly. So you
That's
never
my
know.
plan. We'll see what happens.
Or
Drive
you're
my
going to be
kids
the
crazy
next
till I'm
T1000.
150.
The
I'm cool with
T1000.
that too.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the liquid metal John Stamp because it is going to
I
mess some people up. I got a list for you too.
I'm a pacifist, so I'd be the artist T1000.
Okay. Well, let's get
I'm very
Ama
peaceful.
Adair T1000 as well. I bet you Ama will slaughter some people
That's
for me.
yeah, she'll be after that first the her new book, man, that thing opens up bloody. So she's
Yes.
definitely yeah, she's scary. She's Skynet scary.
She's got some. I can say this as I know her. She's got some aggression bent up there that's coming out, I think.
Right.
So it's
It's
probably
very
from her son. I
cathartic.
think her son drives
Yeah.
her, like he's like the holy cow, this kid, what is he doing now? Her daughter's like so chill and so cool. Her daughter came to the concert when we went and saw Shinedown. So her daughter is sweetest thing. But yeah, I think the son is the one that's probably giving her a few gray hairs, which mine probably gave me a few too.
It's
So
just comes with the years, I
comes
guess.
with the years. So where should people go to find you, find your books, find out about the podcast? Where are you
Yeah,
promoting?
you can one more plug for Ty. Ty was running around Indonesia stopping Chinese spies
There we
in a
go.
very violent and graphic way. Pretty much anywhere books are sold for Ty Benhoff's Overmatch, and then writer stuff. Me and Jeff are kicking off middle of this month, and that's
Nice.
on pretty much any platform you can find it. And then if you want to find out a little more about me, there's johnstampriter.com.
There we go.
And I am at your disposal.
Thanks for coming on, John. I appreciate it, and
Thanks for
good luck
having
in the
me,
future.
man.
You're welcome.
You too.